we used prior to MAPCON at Red Star was a homebrew system of Excel and Excel spreadsheets, multiple spreadsheets. The guys would enter their information in there, so they were already kind of used to putting data on something, so it was made it kind of an easy transition to move into CMMS. We also own Oracle EAM, which is a module for Oracle ERP, and but it was really quite cumbersome and tough to work with. You had to go 10 layers into a screen to get to anything, so we decided to look for something else at that point. Some of the issues we had with a spreadsheet system that we had before was it was tough to find information, or a single spreadsheet, multiple people trying to get in it, a lot of duplicate information, no information attached directly to an asset or to any particular machine. You were just hoping and you'd find some information related to a keyword you were trying to search for. Excel has a find function, but it doesn't hold a candle to a database. Another problem with the spreadsheet was that you could accidentally edit old information or somebody else's information and overwrite it, which is a problem. We chose MAPCON over a few other CMMSs at the time. When we were searching for the CMMS, we interviewed Maximo, DataStream. We also looked at one called Champs out of Florida. All things being equal, CMMSs basically work the same. What really stood out for MAPCON for us was the fact that the people were accessible there. So we wouldn't have to wait a year down the road to the next revision to get a problem fixed. I could call up and talk to a programmer or one of the guys in the office over there, and they would take care of my problem immediately. So I guess the customer service portion of it was pretty high on the list. For my daily tasks would be, I have a couple of direct reports. I have 3 employees, and I manage them. And then I take care of a lot of the more technical ends of some of the purchasing. Also, generating purchase orders from requests out of MAPCON. And then I support the 5 sites that we have currently running the MAPCON software. So if they have a problem looking something up or they need a new user, I'd be the one they came to. I use purchase orders. All of our purchasing for the last 9 years or so has been done through MAPCON, and it interfaces with our ERP. So records in MAPCON are a lot more detailed than what they normally put in Oracle. If somebody has a question in corporate about a PO, they're going to call us. The one that was made out of for the maintenance department engineering here. We manage capital projects through MAPCON, so work orders and purchase orders for that. And then we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 120,000 work orders we processed since we've had MAPCON. All of our equipment history, all of our equipment specifications for the 20,000 plus assets that we have on site. We manage it through that. Just about every module in MAPCON I use at least once a day. Most of our inventory is generated automatically. I think we have somewhere around 13,000 inventory items and about 2,000 vendor managed items. So the bulk of our inventory is done through the automatic reorder system inside of MAPCON. My favorite features of MAPCON would probably be the automated inventory or the purchase requisition system. But I also like the automatic generation of PMs and on time-based or condition-based PMs, because that keeps us out of a lot of trouble. It keeps our equipment running. Red Star Yeast is a food company. We make bakers and brewers yeast, primarily bakers yeast here for the wholesale baking industry in liquid and block form. We also make stuff for the ethanol industry, but obviously with the food industry, we get audited by the regulatory agencies. Our main one would be the BRC, and they come in annually and audit us. And then without MAPCON, I'm not too sure how we would access maintenance records on equipment. So every time we have an audit, the maintenance team is involved with the audit, and they ask how our PMs are generated, how our work orders are handled. But one of those agencies, along with customer audits as well, anybody who we sell to can come in here and audit our process. And part of that audit would include our quality, but mostly, from my perspective, it's the maintenance department. So that they'll ask about calibrations inside of a fermenter, for instance. When was the last time the pH probe was calibrated, and we'll have the records going back for ages on that. When it was done, if it was calibrated at the time, if it was out of the range of the normal specification for that part. We manage that through the MAPCON system. I probably get more attention out of Craig than I probably should. He really puts in a lot of time on our system. I use Craig almost exclusively, and when he's gone, it's Brock mostly. Mm-hmm. I've worked with those guys since the 90s. So I had MAPCON in a previous job, so that's how we found out about them here, because I'd used them somewhere else once before, back in version 3, I think it was. You guys, they're totally accessible, and that's probably one of the biggest strengths for MAPCON is the accessibility of their staff. If you have a problem, somebody's going to help you there, no matter what the nature of the problem is. Anywhere from imports to problems that you may be having with an inventory item not issuing correctly, or if I have a work order that seems to be stuck for some reason or other. 90% of the time it's an issue on our side, but they still help us work through it. They tell you that you get 3 or 5 support hours a year. I'm sure I burned that up in January 3rd. So they do a fantastic job with everything as far as Red Star and Lasoff. We're probably one of the most heavily customized systems that MAPCON has. So I think I'm somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 customizations, better than 100 customizations, probably more like 200 customizations in the new system. I had way more than that in 5.0. We have a new revision coming up, and we're going to move up to the current version of MAPCON, and I think I have somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 70 customizations that will be going in, dominating Craig and Brock's time once my system's up to date. So it's tough for me to put a finger on my favorite ones, but I think the favorite type of customizations I have are ones where I have it automatically communicate back to a user and trying to close communication loops. For instance, when a part is received in MAPCON, one of the customizations that I did was if that part is reserved on a work order, it's going to send an email to that author of the work order, to the person who planned it, and notify the person who received it when they receive it, to touch base with each other. It's going to say, hey, it's to the receiver, it's going to say, Matt Stevens, the maintenance planner, is waiting on this part for work order X. For the technician the work order has been dispatched to, it's going to say your part has been received by Terry Wheeler, the guy who receives the parts, and it'll give the date and the time, when that happens. So you close a lot of communication loops there, and I would say that a good 50% of the customizations that I do are closing up communication loops to make it easier for technicians and receiving personnel and buyers and planners and supervisors to know when their work is completed. They get an email from the system when their work has been completed. They'll get an email from the work order or when their parts are available. They'll get an email when their parts have been ordered. So that way everybody's on the same page. Since we have such a mass of work orders going in at any one time, right now I think our backlog's in the neighborhood of, it usually ranges somewhere between 600 and 700 active work orders at any one time. There's a lot going on. We've got 19 or 20 technicians, and we have several supervisors in the field, so there's just a lot of people. I think our total maintenance staff, including support staff, is somewhere in the neighborhood between 27 and 29 employees. So keeping that many people in the loop on what's going on is part of the challenge, and I think MAPCON helps with that quite a bit. The training is fantastic, and it's very comprehensive. So we've had several on-site training classes. Steve's been here a number of times. dozens probably over the years. The advantage of going to Des Moines is you get to see a vanilla system there, and you get to see what the comprehensive system is without any tweaks. Like I mentioned before, our system is one of the most highly customized systems I think you guys have operating out there, and it doesn't always look exactly like what the mothership system looks like. So it's good to see that. It's also good to have an overview of the whole system, even if you don't use the system in its entirety, so you understand the capabilities of MAPCON. I think the advantage of having it on site is you're working with your own system. Then you get to learn how to navigate or work in your own environment, I guess would be the best thing. Having worked with the trainers for years and years, they know what they're doing pretty well. Well, there wouldn't be any controlled inventory without the software. I mean, it tells us how much we have on hand. It tells us what the lead time is for the part if we don't have it on hand, the average lead time. It will, it just does so many things. It's tough to narrow it down to one thing. We have location, so it's going to tell you where the part's sitting in our warehouse. It's going to tell you how many we normally keep on hand, what if it's been ordered recently, how many we have on order, what the usage is. There's a lot of different things that help with any given problem. All right, we use MAPCON for purchasing everything in the maintenance department, everything for smaller capital projects. I would say anything MRO related, nuts and bolts, lubrication, machine parts, services. So if I have a guy come in and work on an air conditioner, we write our purchase order through our system. Also, we contract maintenance services to the other businesses on site. We have a couple of sister companies. There's 4 businesses located here, 3 in addition to Red Star, and we charge them work, and then if they purchase anything in their work order, it runs through our system most of the time. So any parts and equipment for BioSpringer or our pilot lab or soon to be our new mix plant will run through us. Right now we have 5 sites. We have 3 here in Cedar Rapids, soon to be 4 because we're building I don't know if you guys noticed when you're driving up, but we're building an additional factory on site. And then we have 2 sites in Headland, Alabama. So each site has all their assets in MAPCON, all their purchasing is done through there for maintenance and engineering. So we maintain individual work history for each site. We maintain individual maintenance inventory for each location, Headland or Cedar Rapids. And its own little work order system within that. So each place is able to be an individual, but as an administrator, you can see a more global perspective. And you can see how many separators are getting work orders done on them, how many clarifiers, how many pumps. We don't have any clarifiers here, but they have them down there. So if I want to look and see how theirs are working, it's nice to see. If filter presses down there, I can go look and see how much work they have to put in on that. Go see what parts they're ordering. They can see what parts I'm ordering. We also have access to each other's inventory to see if somebody has a transmitter or a pump on site and there's a desperate need for one at another site. So that's pretty handy. From the time I order it to the time it hits the door. And if I can just get it out of Headland, Alabama, that's a big advantage. And to know if it's sitting in their inventory without calling somebody and having them look, that's also an advantage. Well, the reason I think that they should attend the conference is just what I was talking about before. They get to network with other users and get a support group to help them with any challenges that they have. They get to talk to people who've already done that, and they don't have to reinvent the wheel when they roll out things in their system. You can go and see how the software works or see what's coming up in the future for any development in the product. You can also influence the development of the product if there's enough need that's voiced during one of the conferences. It will definitely route how the product is developed. I think they're pretty valuable, especially for the roundtable discussions. You can get insight from other people in your industry, not only about MAPCON, but like how to do things in maintenance, or different ways that people have handled different challenges in a maintenance department in different environments. We're very similar to the ethanol industry, so that in the vein that we have we ferment product here, and so do they in ethanol. There's quite a few guys from the ethanol facilities there, and all of our equipment's very, very similar. So we can talk to each other about different product problems, or how we approach something inside of the MAPCON system with somebody who's already went through that problem. That's been pretty valuable over the last 8 or 9 years for us. We see how people have tackled problems like rolling out inventory, rolling out purchasing, getting different ideas about how people establish their asset databases. It's pretty good stuff. Also, you have access to a good share of the MAPCON staff during those if you have any individual problems that you want to address or to get insight on. So that's pretty valuable for the system administrators and the supervisors. It's also a good place to have people who aren't system administrators try to understand, so they can take that information back to their system admins and say this is how they're handling it there, and hopefully it helps them develop or work on any problems that they're having.
My daily task in MAPCON would be running work orders, approving work orders, reviewing work orders, writing PRs so that POs can be in place. I do a lot of scheduling, a lot of planning with the work orders. So anything generically with the PMs, do a lot of editing of PMs, scheduling PMs through MAPCON. PRs are purchase requests that I make through MAPCON. Whenever I have a contractor or a planned job that I need to get finished, and then they get sent on to the purchasing agent and become POs. Basically, my realm of MAPCON is the work order, scheduling, planning, and that type of thing. A little bit of purchasing inventory. I do refine parts through MAPCON in the inventory, and those are the big ones for me. My favorite features of MAPCON would be the ability to be able to plan and schedule work orders on a daily basis. We have a yearly audit that is our BRC audit, and when they come, we sit down with them and they go through our MAPCON system with us, different questions they may have. They may want to see certain PMs, they may want to see certain work orders, repair work orders, against emergency work orders, and how we document all that and how we keep it in place. On the inventory control in MAPCON, what my part of that would be is to make sure that when we do issue out different parts, that the stock levels are correct. If they're wrong, then I get with the crib manager and we straighten those out. And those would only be because somebody forgot to check them out or something. So we keep a pretty close eye on that so we don't run out of things. But as far as stocking, the part that I do is if I decide that out in the field there's a certain part we need that we don't have, then yeah, I go in and request that, and then Eric takes care of that for us. No, as far as purchasing, I guess my role in that would be to get the PRs written so the POs can be made. And then once they are received, I will receive them and approve them. And then that's it for me with the purchasing part. As far as using MAPCON, other than the things I just told you, would be for, actually I use it a lot for my employees and tracking them as far as their employee numbers and different things like that when I need to find. It's very easy to go in there when I'm scheduling and just highlight their names and click and save, and it's there, instead of one by one having to always do that, to be able to schedule multiple people on a job or a work order. So other than that, those are the main things that I use it for, yeah.
We used Excel spreadsheets. Basically every department had their own very rough version of tracking. There was no real work order system. You kind of stated something needed completed, you kind of wrote it on an Excel spreadsheet, and you kind of followed up with maintenance as needed to ensure it got completed. Basically, one of the bigger things is that it was all manual. Basically, myself and the other lead supervisors spent a lot of time with a very massive spreadsheet tracking the work orders, verifying if they were done. There was no real accountability to who did them, how they got done, what was used. It was very bulky. On a daily basis, my position is I'm the lead supervisor. I oversee the supervisors and the operators, basically. I would monitor maintenance issues, production issues, people issues. Every morning we have a maintenance meeting. MAPCON generates reports of what each shift did the night before or the day before. So typically each morning when I get here, I will run through the report, kind of highlights every work order that had been done over the night and the day before. It arises questions to me whether, was it corrected, how it was corrected, more topics to talk about in the overall management meeting of maintenance. That's very helpful to kind of guide you. It doesn't always go into the more outstanding work orders, which sometimes I have a list of ones that I have as more of a priority than I just follow them in MAPCON. Yes, we have several audits where we are a food facility that has requirements, and MAPCON is assisting in a lot of the tracking of certain items that we do have to sometimes track PMs for like filters and several things that we do to utilize MAPCON for the audits. I really think that, coming from our old system and, non-existent system to MAPCON has been great. I mean, the able to track, the ability to do PMs, the ability to just have some sort of a tracking matrix on everything has been really good. From what I've heard, even in the beginning, when we were doing a lot more minor changes, and through whether it's Eric or MAPCON, it seems like when we have issues, they're resolved fairly quickly. I mean, to get us to the best we can. So I think it's been very good.
What we used before MAPCON was Excel spreadsheets, which anybody could change. So it was a big hassle, a lot of problems. We'd have a lot of excess inventory on some things and not enough on others, so it was hard tracking any kind of parts. Search engine was next to nothing. You had to basically go off of line items and hope that they're still in that spot. So there was a lot of issues before MAPCON. And then parts move if the inventory technicians start moving parts around. Mm-hmm. Then if they don't notate that down, it's no longer in that spot. So then the hunt was on. So it actually added a lot of man hours to the technicians. Everything. You name it, we had problems. It was great. The spreadsheets were great for tracking costs. Other than that, it was pretty much useless. There was a lot of issues with the previous system because you couldn't go back on work orders, you couldn't check work orders. There was really no work order system. So my daily tasks are to go through our current work order list, see what the priorities are, rearrange that according to what's really a priority and what really isn't a priority. Ensure that we have the inventory on hand, pull the parts, kit the parts, complete the work orders and fill those work orders so that the guys can complete their job. Typically, it's just a backlog of all work orders. The ones that have already been completed versus the ones that are still open, so that ensures that if we have auditors that come in, we are current. We don't have any existing work orders that nobody knew about. I'm looking at the assets. I'm looking for the specification side of it, see if there's any attachments. If there's no attachments, then I update that. Once I locate the attachments, for the specifications, I update the specification side of it. simply so we're accurate. So the guys, if they have to do any kind of research, it's limited research. They don't have to do the expansive stuff and spend a lot of hours doing it. They can spend their time working instead of doing the research side of it. Pulling parts, researching parts, making sure that we have on hand what we need and not worry about the stuff that we don't need. The part coating we used, I used it and one other technician used it because we were here the longest, which actually worked out really good because you could just scan the work order, scan your part, everything was added. It was done, which makes it a lot easier to do the job instead of having to go back to a PC or PLC and then type it all out. It just, easier is always better. The barcoding helped out when I'd have to go out and work on a particular machine. I needed parts. If there were a lot of parts to be added, it's always easier to scan it and go. Put in the quantities, you're done. I've been to 3 or 4 training classes here. Okay. I think there was 2 classes that I went to on the initial use. The one was with the older system and then our current system that we're using, and then I went to training on being a maintenance planner. The training classes were really good, very thorough. Any questions that we had were answered with plenty of examples, being able to work on it right in front of us and go through the entire system. It was really nice. I know what came with MAPCON. Some of the customizations that have occurred have been really nice. Instead of having to do workarounds, now it's a little bit more direct. I like the notifications. Getting some of the notifications is really nice. It helps me in my planning process. If I order parts and we already have it in inventory, but I didn't find it in inventory, I get a notification that something's been canceled out, and then I can proceed with that. It's nice. It's really nice and helping me do my job. I liked the users group because you're getting information from all realms of the maintenance field and different aspects to it. And that's nice. I don't know if it's everything that I need to know, but it's a nice option.
Prior to MAPCON, we just had basically a work order list. You know, with Excel, you can't have multiple users in there at one time. So if someone was in there, you couldn't put a work order in. So you'd have to call them or email them, hey, get out of the spreadsheet. It was just if we came up with a problem, found a problem, we just put it in a spreadsheet, and then the maintenance supervisor would go in and just put that it's completed. But there was no tracking. It was impossible to. Because we were growing, yeah, it was slow at the beginning because some of the parts weren't wearing out, but as a few years down the road, everything's starting to break, and it's impossible to, without a database type of system like MAPCON. But I don't even think we had initials or anything, you know. Like, even if we went back to the spreadsheets now, we wouldn't know, like, who did it or when it happened. It was really not a system. It was just, you know, there was no organization other than just tracking just basic work order, and hopefully we have the parts. You know, everything was in Excel before, even the parts, I'm guessing. I'm not really totally involved with that. So my daily tasks, I'm the lead supervisor. I cover the shift supervisors if they're gone. But my normal day-to-day, 8 to 5, you know, in the morning we have a maintenance meeting. We look through the report from the night shift. We're running 24 hours, so we have somebody here all the time. Looking over problems, making sure that things are getting followed up. If work orders are being passed from day shift to night shift to day shift or day shift to night shift, just following up with that. So I'm basically managing the employees on my side. I would say I spend 10 to 25% of my time with maintenance related activities, but the other is just managing my department. I would say like major things or when issues come up, me and my boss are basically the ones that are doing the most troubleshooting. So if something goes wrong during the night, we go, say it's a flow meter. We go into MAPCON to see if, let's say it was calibrated the night before or a couple days before, the history of what's happened to this flow meter. Then we can rule out, okay, was it a human error, possibly, calibration error? But then we would follow up, mostly troubleshooting, but then history of, okay, is this valve failing more than it should? Like if it's being changed out every year, there might be an issue. It might be too quick. There might be a lot of pipe hammer, something damaging that valve. But so definitely when I'm covering shift, we're putting in probably up to 10 to 15 work orders a day, just in the process department. So we're entering those. That's our deal. That's our responsibility. And we prioritize it, and then it goes to maintenance, and they take care of it from there. But emergency work orders, obviously we're calling on the radio. We're putting in a work order, and they're taking care of that with us. But then planned work orders, if it's not a super high priority, then it goes to our planner, and then they take it from there. Find the parts and stuff like that. Yeah, when auditors come in, most of the time what they ask for maintenance side or even MAPCON is when did we calibrate that temperature probe, or when do we calibrate the conductivity probe to make sure our cleaning chemicals are accurate and at the right concentration. So those types of questions can be answered through the history, calibration history in MAPCON. So that's our main. That's how I use it with audits. But everybody likes everything convenient and quick. So like quick button, it says view open work orders button. That's one of my favorite because you can see the history, but then any open work orders. Like, okay, did this work order get done? And I know the asset. I can just go right to that asset, click that one button, and see all the information I need, basically on one screen. So I use that browse equipment tab a lot, probably a lot more than others. But just looking at notes, being able to go to update and complete work orders and look at the notes, okay, what was the issue? Because some of our reports, we don't want them super long, so sometimes we shorten them, the descriptions. So sometimes I need to go in and investigate. But just being able to see all the notes, being able to one tab over, I can see what equipment was or inventory items were checked out on that asset, things like that. A few years ago, we had just specific training for the supervisors, like for me, all the shift supervisors in the plant, just because we don't have access to like everything in MAPCON. We only need specific tools. So they train just on that and on that new version of MAPCON. Forget the newest version, online version that you guys came out with. I think the training was very good, but the user guide that came with it, or the training material that came with it, because you're not going to remember everything from the training. That's almost more important, to have it all in a document so you can reference it later. But some of the features that you use all the time, yeah, you're going to get it because you use it, but having that reference, and I know it's built into MAPCON now, where you can just go in the help. I use it to make sure that we have like most important parts, or if we're like, for some reason we don't have a part, I can look into, okay, what's the minimum parts that we're using, that are in inventory, and then I can look at all that stuff without going and bothering Eric or another person using their resources. I can look in MAPCON and say, okay, our minimum, we order every time it gets down to 2, maybe we need to bump it up to 3 to make sure we have, X amount, because I know what can happen in production. We can have 3 filters go out at the same time. So maybe 2 is not enough. We need to bump it up to 3. So I can do that research without bothering anybody else, and then just send an email, hey, can we increase this number in MAPCON? And I can always do research and on my most important parts and even the usage of some of those parts. But
That's good.
and look at the material. If I'm doing research on or troubleshooting something that's going out, what material is it made out of? You know, things like that through MAPCON. I haven't had to look at the inventory of like BioSpringer, but I could see that it could be beneficial at some point that we had shared parts. You know, like everybody has to do their part. Like I have to do my part by putting in a detailed work order, so I'm not wasting other people's time. The planner has to do their part. The techs have to do their part by writing a good description of what the problem was and checking out the right equipment, so then we don't, you know, we might think we have X amount in inventory, but if people aren't checking out the inventory, then we're going to end up at zero, and that's never good. But that's the biggest thing, is everybody has to do their part, and the system works great. So.
Prior MAPCON, we were using Excel spreadsheet, and that was our way to track work orders and the job that was doing on the floor, basically. The spreadsheet were detailed as far as the work order, but it was very difficult for us to track down, if as an example we want to find some history on the work order, what was done on every asset, we were not able to trace down that because it was just one line item for one work order, and it was too difficult to work with that. So my daily task is making sure I'm supervising the EI supervisor, the mechanical supervisor, planner and trainer, and so we want to make sure that the day-to-day activity, all the job is done on time, and we are able also to trace down the PM, all the preventive maintenance work order, to be able to schedule them with the process and packaging equipment. MAPCON on daily basis, I used it basically, we have this, we have a daily shift report that we receive by email every day, every 12 hours basically, one at 4 p.m., one at 6 p.m., sorry, the other one at 6 a.m. And so with that, we know what happened the night before or the day before, and we are able to figure out if we need to focus more on what type of equipment to make some analysis and to see, okay, which one, why this motor, as an example, has a failure, a repetitive failure, or if you need to investigate more on that or not. I use MAPCON also basically to gather every work order. As an example, right now we are doing some repair on a fermenter, and so we are going to have multiple actions that will have to be done to these fermenters. So we just created a MAPCON project, a maintenance project, sorry, under MAPCON, and this project number will be attached to every work order. And by this way, in the future, we will be able to go back on this project and say, okay, we did so many work order and we had the cost of it, and we know how much we spent to figure out what was the issue and if it was worth it or not.
Okay, good. I'm glad you mentioned there's a MAPCON.
Favorite feature in MAPCON is the accessibility of the system. That we can slide from one menu to the other one without closing one that we had on the previous version. So this is very neat. You have access to, you can put picture, you can put attachment to any asset, any work order, safety, logout, tagout. It's very convenient and very easy to use. So the main goal of the barcoding when I came, we are using the barcoding for the inventory parts, but I was pretty thrilled about this barcode, and so we work with the technicians to make sure that we will be able to tag any assets that we have at the plant with barcode as well. By this way, if a technician goes on the field with his laptop or his future iPad, they will be able to scan the barcode and they have all the information popping out right away on the MAPCON app. So for this expansion, so what we did, we created a PM with a route and not an asset. The route, basically, you have 86 steam traps that are on this route that have an asset, and the technician will go on site. We see which route he needs to do regarding the work order he has, and after he will walk through this route because we put all the assets in order to make sure it will go first in this area and after to the other area, and not coming to this area, coming back here, coming there, and just turning around. Basically, we save some time by doing that. And also with the routes, if everything clears out and there is no issue, it will be able to close the work order. If you find any issue, you will be able to put some notes on the appropriate asset. So basically, if we are talking about the steam trap that is in fermentation area, it will be able to find the steam trap on the route and create a follow-up work order to make the proper repair. And after the work order will be created, the work order will go to the planner will plan the job, and this technician or another one will go later on in a day or two to fix the steam trap. Here at the plant, we have 3 different sites. We have the pallet plant on just before the guard check. We have BSNA and there is us. And so we use the 3 different sites because we maintain those 3 areas.
Okay.
But we use it the old version, and even the old version is a huge update. When you go inside the plant, take picture of the issue, create the work order, you attach the picture on the work order, and that's a great upgrade too. So the picture attachment and the easy usage of the app basically. You can you go on the app, you select your asset, you create your work order, you put your picture, you put your comment, you validate. A minute later, everything is on the database. The conference is very valuable for any customer because basically there is a multiple type of person that goes to the conference. It's not only maintenance for yeast fermentation. It's not only industrial plant. It's different people. As an example, when I went in April, we met this person from it's a Garden City, yeah. And it's very interesting the way they use MAPCON. They use it a different way, like we use it, and he brought some very good idea that we could implement here for us in the future. Like as an example, the mapping that he's using for the city to inform the people that are at the city that here you have maybe a flood coming or you have major repair coming in this area, and so he's using MAPCON to communicate to people, and we don't use that very well in depth yet here. And that's something that I would like to expand on. I met a lot of great people, and the time after the training that we spend also when we all go for dinner and everything is very nice because we can gather and talk about everything, and most of the time it's around MAPCON too, so it's I think it's very valuable. I think if you have new users, it's not worth it to go the first year because the time to get used to the MAPCON, but as soon as you know very well the system, it's time to go because you will be able to expand your knowledge and to know what other people do with MAPCON.